Burger King, and it would be remiss of me not to mention that there are going to be $2 Whoppers if Joseph wins on that Sunday, yes. See Andrew wanting to get into it. What's $2 Whoppers? $2 Whoppers at Burger King. So, Joe's first of all got to win, and a lot of it has to do with how Kevin trains him. So I'm really not going to do too much talking other than to introduce Kevin. I'll record this as well, and say a few words.
Got some more Whoppers too.
Good morning everyone, and we're obviously all excited about the $2 Whoppers. And I am very appreciative of Mr. Stanaway saying it's all about me whether Joe wins or not, because believe me, it's not. Because when that bell goes, there's only one guy in there throwing the punches, and that'll be Joseph Parker. You know, a lot of you guys were here just a little over 3.5 years ago when my journey with Joseph Parker started. And there were a lot of questions whether or not Joe and I would have the chemistry to be a team, whether or not Joseph Parker, who was an amateur boxer with reasonable success but no stamina, could find the stamina to develop into a professional to go 12 rounds. Whether or not Joseph Parker, who was a guy who had good hand speed but no power, would ever be able to get the respect of other heavyweights in the world and knock them out. So this is how we started 3.5 years ago, and I think you'll all agree that this young man has done a tremendous job, and he's been supported by a pretty damn good team along these last 3.5, 4 years of his career. This fight for us is the end of a 4-year apprenticeship. Joe has developed, progressed, he's got bigger, he's got better, his skills have improved. He's collected belts. I think we've collected 8 in the last 3.5 years. And everything has prepared us for this moment. But, you know, let's remember, this young man has been a professional for a total of 4 years, and the last 3.5 with me. Andy Ruiz is an 8-year professional. Andy Ruiz is a guy who has never been hurt, never been beaten, never been down. Andy Ruiz is a guy who we have huge respect for, a guy that we have studied and we have prepared for, a fighter that brings more pressure than anyone that we've seen in Joe's career. Andy Ruiz is a guy who was a tremendous amateur, a record of 105-5. You don't have 110 amateur fights and win 105 of them unless you know what you're doing. He's undefeated, as you all know, in 29 fights. He comes here to New Zealand when he arrives next week as the favourite. He is the favourite to win this fight. There is no doubt in my mind about that. Andy is a fighter with terrific hand speed. Now, we all know that Joseph Parker punches fast, and in every press conference we've ever had, we've talked about the hand speed of Joe Parker. Well, let me tell you this, I believe that Andy Ruiz punches faster than Joe. I've studied Andy up close a little under 4 years ago. I did a little bit of work with him in the gym. I had a couple of conversations with his manager at the time, and there was a chance that I was going to actually end up training Andy. I went and watched him live a couple of times perform, and right then I believed, looking at Andy Ruiz, and this is back early 2013, I thought this guy is destined to become a world champion. I was so impressed with him. Not only did he have great hand speed, but he was so friggin' tough. I saw him hit flush on the chin and just walk through it by a guy who I think that it was actually Oliver McCall's son, Elijah McCall. He had a record of 11-1 with 10 knockouts. He was a heavy-handed fighter, hit Andy flush. Andy didn't even blink. So he showed me all the traits of a guy who was developing and preparing to be a world champion. The pressure for this fight is on Andy Ruiz. As far as I'm concerned, he is the guy who is expected to win this fight. He has one of the top trainers in the world, in Abel Sanchez, in his corner. Abel's a man who I've watched, and I've known him for a long time, and man, he's one of the gentlemen in world boxing. He's trained 16 world champions. You know, there's a lot of pressure on Andy to become Abel's 17th world champion. Andy Ruiz was born in Mexico. The Mexicans have a huge tradition of producing boxing champions. Andy is trying to become the first heavyweight Mexican champion. Once again, the pressure is on Andy Ruiz. This fight for me, when it was first made, and everyone was jumping up and down and they're saying, oh well, we don't have to fight Anthony Joshua now, and we don't have to fight Tyson Fury, we've got Andy Ruiz. And I said, okay. Well, for me, straight away, the main difference was the other guys are giants, 6'6" and 6'9". Andy's in box rec, he's down at 6'2", but you'll all see when he arrives, Andy's about 6 foot. It changed, for me, it changed our whole preparation, our whole mindset of the last 6 months. Everything has been geared towards us preparing Joe for a big man. Last couple of training camps, the sparring partners were all big guys. You know, we all saw in the Dimitrenko fight how well Joe had prepared for a big man. Well, when you go from preparing for guys who are over 6'6" to fighting a guy 6 foot, it's quite a big rethink. I remember saying to Dean Lonergan and Dave Higgins when this fight was first made, and they were so excited and they were so pumped that Joe was fighting Andy Ruiz, and I think a lot of people automatically thought Joe's going to win the world title. And I said to them, well, let me tell you this, Andy Ruiz is a bloody hard fight. We all remember when Joe fought Carlos Takam, and hopefully you guys will remember me standing here in front of you, and every radio interview, every print interview I did, I said before that fight that Carlos Takam was a 50-50 fight for Joseph Parker. The TAB had it miles wrong. Every occasion I was in front of the media, I said that Carlos Takam is a fight that I don't know who's going to win this fight. And we all saw it was a life and death fight for Joseph Parker. Okay, I think we ended up winning 7 rounds and Takam won 5. There was a couple of close ones, but we got the decision, and I think fair enough. Let me tell you this. If that Joseph Parker that fought Carlos Takam turns up on the 10th of December against Andy Ruiz, we lose. Simple as that. We cannot beat Andy Ruiz on the same performance that Joe gave against Carlos Takam. Andy Ruiz is a much better fighter than Carlos Takam, a much more dangerous fighter than Carlos Takam, a much hungrier fighter than Carlos Takam, and a fighter, we talked about the pressure that Carlos Takam brought, and he did bring pressure. Andy Ruiz brings huge pressure. This guy only knows one way. It's to come forward and throw punches. This is a very, very hard, a very difficult fight, a very big mountain for us to climb. And a fight that if we are to win this fight on December 10, we will need to see the very, very best Joseph Parker that there is. We will need a fight where everything, all the skills that he has developed and learned in the last 3.5 years, they must all be on display that night. Because if they're not, we simply cannot beat this guy.
Just on your Carlos Tankman comment, I think you were on record saying it was going 12 rounds. I know everyone's going to break off into one-on-one interviews.
I told everyone it was going 12 rounds.
Right, so this one here, okay, if they get the tape, they're going to see 12 rounds. Oh, do you want to make a prediction on this one?
This fight goes... This fight is a very difficult fight. Very, very difficult fight. This is a fight where, let me just say, the other thing about this fight, you've got two guys who are undefeated. In 50 professional fights, no one's had a loss. None of these guys know what it's like to lose. You've got two guys with very, very fast hands. You've got two young guys. Joe Parker, 24, Andy Ruiz is 27. You've got two guys who both like to come forward. Now, when you get two guys coming forward, there's an explosion in the middle. This fight, I believe, not only is this a great, great fight, but this is possibly the best heavyweight fight that we will see in the world this year. On paper, this fight has all the attributes to be one of the best heavyweight fights this year in the world. Now, I'm a boxing fan, you know, and I'm a student of the game, and I watch fights all the time. You know, some of the heavyweight fights I've watched this year have been pretty damn dismal. When I look at what both these guys bring to this fight, I think this is going to be the most exciting heavyweight fight of the year. The people I've spoken to in the UK and America, all the journos back there, everybody agrees. They all say the same thing. We can't wait for this fight. This is going to be a great, exciting boxing fans fight.
And compare that.
And I know I didn't answer the question whether it was going to go 12 rounds.
Because
this fight goes 12 rounds. This is.
Or does it even knock out either way?
Well, I tell you, well, I hope if it ends in a knockout, I hope it ends in our way. You know, this is a very difficult fight.
There was a little bit of talk yesterday regarding the Joshua Molina fight, and I think casual fans sit there and they go, oh, Joshua's the biggest name in the world, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, you and I both know, and I'm telling you guys, England is not enchanted by that fight at all. It's a who cares fight. That's what Lennox Lewis name drop said to me. It's just a who cares fight. You feel the same way?
Well, you know, it's not. So what I've done with Anthony Joshua, Anthony's a very talented young guy who has developed and got better every time he's got in the ring, but they've been very, very careful with the selection of opponents. You may remember about 9 months ago, there was a lot of talk about him fighting the WBC champ, Deontay Wilder. And all of a sudden, you know, their whole team in the UK realised he wasn't ready for Wilder. You know, he's still developing, he's still getting better. Hey, Joseph Parker is still developing and getting better. This is not by any means of the imagination the finished product. You know, at 24 years of age, you know, we've got it all in front of us. Joe's best years are yet to come. But you know,
that Molina fight.
Molina is a guy that we tried to fight 12 months ago. You know, we put some really good money on the table. We thought at one stage we had him to come down to New Zealand. Molina is a guy he's got a good right hand, but a guy that, you know, really, unless he gets incredibly lucky, it's a fight that Anthony Joshua just blows the guy away.
And he's already lost to Deontay Wilder.
Yes, he has. He's lost a lot.
Okay, I'm going to finish it there.